Hi everyone. On September 2nd this year, I delivered a keynote presentation at the TV Joseon Education Forum session number 3 with this topic of quality of life and citizenship in Korean school education in Korean. I refined and translated it into English with the help of AI tools. My presentation is intended to overcome the unbalanced reality in Korean school education where non-cognitive competencies are undervalued compared to cognitive competencies. The first part will cover students' quality of life and the latter part will cover citizenship. In PISA, Korea has continuously maintained top rankings with high academic achievements and that attracts international attention. However, behind this achievement lies a serious problem of students' quality of life being very poor. Often, non-cognitive competencies are regarded merely as a secondary element among educational tasks. There is a case where former President Yoon Suk-yeol stated in the cabinet meeting that the Ministry of Education should consider itself an economic ministry, and that supplying talent necessary for industrial development is the first mission of the Ministry of Education. This phenomenon is not simply a problem of the educational achievement, but reflects a structural problem in reality, where the educational paradigm is overly focused on cognitive achievement. In reality, students are limited in their opportunities to demonstrate creativity and agency amid academic grades, private education, and fierce entrance exam competition, and emotional and social competencies are not treated as important. However, internationally, there are recommendations to expand the purpose of education to whole person development and include happiness, resilience, citizenship, and social solidarity as educational goals alongside academic achievement. UNESCO proposes that schools should be protected as educational sites that support inclusion, equity, and individual and collective well-being, and also reimagined to better promote the transformation of the world towards more just, equitable, and sustainable futures. OECD also emphasizes that core knowledge, competencies, attitudes, and values for 2030 should include not only basic literacy and numeracy, but also data literacy and digital literacy, physical and mental health, and social and emotional competencies. In social and emotional learning, which the OECD presents as an educational area essential for fostering non-cognitive competencies necessary for a successful life in future society, quality of life corresponds to emotional competencies and citizenship corresponds to social competencies. Based on this, starting in 2011, the OECD newly introduced the Better Life Initiative and the Happy Life Dashboard in PISA 2022 to capture cognitive, social, and emotional students' outcomes more broadly. Through this, it emphasizes that how students manage forms their well-being, which in turn affects school achievement and life outcomes beyond school. In the case of World Happiness Report, various concepts related to quality of life appear. In this presentation, these will be largely grouped and used interchangeably. Furthermore, we will examine further based on the premise that the quality of life is projected onto the results of students' life satisfaction appearing in OECD or domestic statistics. PISA 2015 attempts to measure students' well-being by dividing it into 4 dimensions: psychological, social, cognitive, and physical, as shown in this diagram. PISA 2018 attempts to measure how satisfied students are with their lives and find meaning, followed by feelings, self-efficacy, and fear of failure as the psychological dimension of well-being, and growth mindset as the cognitive dimension. Starting in 2022, PISA began paying more comprehensive attention to the whole life of students beyond the scope of cognitive assessment. At the center of this is the Happy Life Dashboard, which begins with the statement that students are more than just their grades. Secondly, regarding the topic of citizenship, UNESCO, through global citizenship education concept, sought to foster values that reflect a global vision for the world and provide purpose such as diversity, empathy, openness, justice, and fairness for all. In this regard, citizenship can be said to be a non-cognitive competency that includes the rights and responsibilities an individual must have as a member of community, social participation, and ethical judgment, and the ability to contribute to the public good. Therefore, citizenship education becomes a core practical path for improving the quality of life pursued by the Happy Life Dashboard. The two topics, quality of life and citizenship, are not separate goals but interdependent core values of a democratic society. Students are people now. They do not become people only after time passes. It is true that current children or adolescents are growing into more intellectually, physically, and mentally mature beings. But the mistake of perceiving or treating students as somehow incomplete beings, as people simply because they are in the process of growing up, should no longer exist. The solemn proclamation of Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights must be applied to students as they are at home in society and also in educational field. Furthermore, realizing the provisions of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, which declares the principle of the best interest of the child, here and now is also a task that must be promoted in the educational field. The Korean Constitution, Article 10, contains the right to pursue happiness. Students should never be subject to restrictions on their rights. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act also stipulates the guarantee of students' human rights. In that sense, the proposition attributes to John Dewey, education is not a preparation for life, but life itself, becomes an aphorism for Korean education today. While reflecting on how much deep interest Korean education has actually shown towards students' quality of life, well-being, or happiness, truly belated reflection is needed. This is a photo from the educational media Chang that a high school girl jumped from an academy where this banner saying, "My life's spring has ended," was hung. The situation where even the minimum quality of life as a person that should be enjoyed here and now must be postponed under the pretext of for tomorrow must be overcome. A comprehensive perspective on the well-being of students' youth is easier to find in data from other institutions rather than the Ministry of Education. First, the Korea Youth Policy Institute has been developing a children and youth quality of life indicators system over the past few years. Based on this, the Children and Youth Life Satisfaction Indicator, which the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family surveys every 3 years, emerges. Here, the life satisfaction score on a 10-point scale is around 6.75 in 2017, 6.59 in 2020, and 6.87 in 2023. Children and Youth Quality of Life 2024 by Statistics Korea selects 60 indicators from government statistics and uses them as an evidence base for improving the quality of life of children and youth. Accordingly, the middle and high school students' school life satisfaction conducted by Statistics Korea every 2 years shows the percentage of students satisfied with school life measured by element. Fortunately, satisfaction in this indicator is generally improving slightly, and research is needed on how to strengthen this trend further. However, the reality becomes clearer when comparing the level of satisfaction with the quality of life of Korean students with other countries. PISA systematically included and measured the subjective well-being item of students' life satisfaction starting in 2015. According to these survey results, the life satisfaction of Korean students was only 6.4. This was much lower than the OECD average of 7.3 and was only at the 29th level out of 30 surveyed countries. In PISA 2018, the average life satisfaction for OECD countries was 7.04 points, and about 67% of students expressed satisfaction with their lives. However, here too, the life satisfaction of Korean students remained at 6.52 points, which is around 36th out of 37 OECD countries, similar to the 2015 results. In the PISA 2022 survey, the average life satisfaction of Korean students was 6.36 points, ranking 66th out of 73 countries. Can it be greatly improved to the top tier of the OECD in the results of the 9th cycle PISA 2025 to be released next year? In the World Happiness Report 2024, published annually by the University of Oxford's Wellbeing Research Center in cooperation with Gallup, etc., Korea was ranked 58th out of 147 countries worldwide. This graph shows the happiness index trends of 10 countries with populations over 50 million among OECD countries. Here too, Korea, marked in black, shows the lowest level except for Turkey, similar to PISA. Despite differences in methodology, surveyed subjects, and conditions, a flat comparison was made with the rankings of countries with populations over 50 million from PISA data. Here, Korea's level ranked 9th or 8th out of 10 countries, excluding Turkey, which ranked the lowest. Looking at the Pearson correlation coefficient in this data, it can be seen that students' life satisfaction is closely related to the life satisfaction of the entire population. UNICEF, in its Innocenti report card published in 2025, analyzed key comparative indicators for child well-being across 3 areas: mental well-being, physical health, and academic and social competencies. As a result, the Netherlands ranked first overall, with first in mental well-being, fourth in physical health, and 11th in academic and social competencies. However, Korea ranked fourth in academic and social competencies out of 41 countries. But 34th out of 36 countries included in the ranking for mental well-being and 28th in physical health. When comparing age-standardized suicide rates among OECD countries, Korea had the highest level at 24.8% compared to the OECD average of 10.7%. Korea's suicide rate, which has been the undisputed number one since 2003, is a very serious social problem. In 2024, the number of suicide deaths in Korea was 14,439, with a suicide mortality rate of 29.3%. According to Ministry of Education data, the number of student suicides, which was 23 in 2015, reached 2,021 in 2024, a 2.4-fold increase. Furthermore, when this number is converted to a suicide rate, considering the sharp decline in the student population, a frightening increase of 2.8 times is confirmed from 1.53 in 2015 to 4.31 in 2024. Assuming the average number of students per class in Korea middle and high schools is 24 nationwide, this means that the past year alone, about 9 classes disappeared due to student suicide. And even considering the statistics on international self-harm deaths from Statistics Korea and the addition of out-of-school youth or the age of 19, it shows a large difference exceeding 1.7 times the Ministry of Education's announcement. The Republic of Korea has long since become synonymous with a low birth rate society. The total fertility rate dropped sharply from 4.53 in 1970 to 2.06 in 1983, below the replacement level, and recorded 0.72 in 2023, the lowest since birth statistics began. This extreme low birth rate, along the highest suicide rate, unfortunately reveals that Korea is an unhappy society. Korean education is situated precisely within this vortex. Despite the fact that students' life satisfaction has been included in the OECD PISA survey since 2015, and the results show a very poor level, interest in the Korean educational community is almost impossible to find. For example, when the OECD shows the Korean students' well-being level was among the lowest in 2017, the Ministry of Education only released explanatory material only after preemptive reports by some media. The content was also an excuse that the PISA 2015 assessment target was 15-year-old students at that time, before the application of the Ministry of Education's key policies such as the free semester system and the 2015 curriculum. Even in the PISA 2022 announcement materials, the Ministry of Education stated Korea ranked first and second in math, first to seventh in reading, second, fifth in science among 37 OECD countries, and words such as students' life satisfaction, happiness, or well-being were not mentioned once. The situation is similar at the National Education Commission. Is it acceptable to sacrifice quality of life and well-being for students' high grades? Behind the indifference to students' quality of life in Korean education, there seems to be a thought that accepts low life satisfaction as an inevitable fate if academic achievement is high. However, academic achievement is only a part of life, possessing perhaps a fraction of the importance among the components of students' quality of life. In PISA 2015, Korea had the lowest life satisfaction among countries with above average OECD academic achievement. 4 countries were selected: Korea and Japan from East Asia, which are in the top tier of academic achievement, and Finland and Estonia from Northern Europe, and their academic achievement and life satisfaction results from the past 3 PISA cycles were compared. Here, it is difficult to find a significant correlation between PISA academic achievement scores and students' life satisfaction. This graph gives a feeling of comparing the East Asian type and the North European type. Korea and its neighbor Japan show high achievement but low well-being levels, while Estonia and its neighbor Finland show relatively high achievement along with high well-being levels. Therefore, the rationalization or excuse that Korean students' low level of life satisfaction is something that must be endured for their high academic grades must now stop. In particular, the indifference to students' well-being in the Korean educational community and Korean society is truly wrong. The future vision of education must respond to changing social conditions, but must also be proactive content that can lead future societal changes. For example, it is necessary to prepare for social trends and conditions such as low birth rates and rapid population decline, but at the same time, it must be overcome through changes in the educational system that significantly reduce the burden of private education expenses and implementation of policies that reduce the burden of child care. Similarly, not only policies that respond to and control school violence, but also ways to reduce and prevent it must be presented. Therefore, educational reform must overcome this reality and prevent a vision that can bring forth hope for the future. Various problems in society are interconnected. The task of improving students' quality of life is the same. There is no single panacea. It is intertwined with other topics and cannot be realized by changing only one or two elements of education. Therefore, to improve students' quality of life, it is urgently necessary for various related stakeholders, from families to teachers, parents, educational institutions, offices of education, civil society, and the National Education Commission or the Ministry of Education, and various government ministries such as the Ministry of Health and Welfare, to pool their strengths and make comprehensive, integrated, and long-term sustained efforts. There was a slogan, a happy child today becomes a happy adult. In light of the fact that Korea's youth and adult suicide rates are the highest in the world, a kind of hope torture that promises you can't enjoy a happy life now, but you will be happy later, must be overcome in the future. And furthermore, a fundamental shift in paradigm that Korean education has been based on must be pursued. First, the conflict competition relationships in educational field must be transformed into cooperation empathy-centered relationships. Relationships in the educational field between student and student, student and teacher, teacher and student's family, staff and staff, etc., must change from being targets of competition and conflict to partner relationships that cooperate to achieve goals together. Continuous effort is needed to fundamentally secure community through mutual understanding and cooperation to foster healthy character and citizenship. The obsession with fairness without empathy, treating the other party as an object to be defeated and overcome, must be overcome, and we must change towards an educational field of mutual respect. Second, educator-centered schools and classrooms also need to be changed to learner-centered, ensuring that no one becomes a failure or drop out in education and that everyone has solid self-esteem is one of the most basic conditions for students to be happy. Third, the system of ranking students based on one or two factors like subject grades must be overcome and students must be supported to lead themselves, build self-esteem and utilize diverse abilities, interests, talents, and aptitudes. They must be cared for so they can develop in a whole person dimension, including healthy body and mind, relationships with neighbors, and interest and participation in the world. Particularly, it is essential to stop giving grades based on a fragmented knowledge or memorization in secondary education curricula and switch the evaluation system to one that values whether creativity and imagination are secured, focusing on thinking skills. The story that a test question related to a certain poem was presented, but the poet themselves could not solve the problem, should be taken as a good example of what must be overcome for a sustainable development of Korean education in the future. Most of what has been shown through grades in the educational reality so far has not been creativity but conformity to a unilateral single correct answer, memorization of years, unrelated to historical consciousness, and mostly just memorizing and following without knowing why one must study. Now, we must ask questions about how to enjoy a healthy and happy life throughout one's life, what competencies are needed for this, how much the student's learning content in school is actually related to this, and create alternatives. Fourth, a shift to a new paradigm where educational administrative agencies support frontline schools and teachers who autonomously perform their responsibilities is urgently needed. Here, autonomy must, of course, be balanced with responsibility. Teachers who are operators of the happiness education system along with students must become happy. Particularly, student rights and teacher rights must be complementary for the realization of happiness education. Fifth, it is necessary to build an educational community that cooperates, solidarized, and participates with families and local society beyond schools as spaces isolated within fences. For operating specialized then learning that is difficult to open for individual schools, especially for the substantial operation of the free semester system or high school credit system. Collaboration between schools and furthermore with the local community is essential. The statement in the preface of PISA 2018, our task is not to make the impossible possible, but to make the possible achievable, becomes a valid expression for the task of whether it is possible to realize improvement in student quality of life, especially in non-cognitive competencies, while maintaining the excellence of cognitive competencies in Korean education. First and foremost, the awakening of the National Education Commission, the Ministry of Education, offices of education, and furthermore teachers, parents, and the entire society is important. A department dedicated to student quality of life is needed, and research is required. I hope the implementation of the Customized Support for Students Act becomes the beginning of such change. Citizenship education refers to education that supports students to realize they are the masters of their own lives and communal life, and to solve problems of their community through critical thinking and mutual solidarity as defined in the current Framework Act on Education or Framework Act on Youth, meaning democratic citizens. UNESCO requests the expansion of the right to education from schools to lifelong education and emphasized that education, a public good and common good, must have its purpose, content, and process oriented towards cooperation and solidarity. That is, one of the key roles of education is to educate citizens who advance human rights, and it means preparing students to become autonomous and ethical thinkers and doers, fostering students' agency, responsibility, empathy, critical and creative thinking, and at the same time developing in a full range of social and emotional skills. So education must form the capacity for active citizenship and democratic participation in students. The International Association for the Evaluation of Educational Achievement, International Civic and Citizenship Education Study comprehensively evaluated civic knowledge, civic attitudes, and civic participation intention among second-year middle school students. Although it was long ago, the 29 report showed that Korean students' social interaction competency to live harmoniously with neighbors was 0.3 out of 1 point, ranking 35th out of 36 countries. Regarding this, a KD research report interpreted the teachers had a very low level of shared understanding of the meaning, content, and direction of democratic citizenship education. Furthermore, democratic citizenship education without a specific subject, class hours, or dedicated teachers was understood as an education without a clear entity, which anyone doesn't have to care about, anyone can do, and anyone doesn't have to do. From February 12th, 2024, the National Education Commission commissioned the KEDI National Education Development Research Center to survey the current perception of Korean education and expectations for future education. According to the results, the limitation of current Korean education were mentioned as private education expenses, academic credentialism, educational gap, etc., leading to neglect of character and citizenship due to knowledge-centered school education and lack of education for cultivating students' diverse core competencies. And the competency ranked first that students should acquire through future school education was community competency, followed by creative thinking competency. Also, in a survey regarding to the importance of each item for educational development, democratic citizenship education for fostering a sense of community ranked fourth. The task posed by the UNESCO report of forming students' capacity for active citizenship and democratic participation is an area difficult to fully encompass with the expression character education. So it is urgent to separately emphasize the concept of citizenship. It must be noted that the argument that citizenship is naturally included in character is often abused as a trick to exclude citizenship or avoid emphasizing citizenship. Of course, character and citizenship are not either or choices or conflicting value orientations. Therefore, it is desirable to use the name citizenship education, but as in the Singapore case, premise both citizenship and character as complementary relationships and promote them simultaneously in future Korean education. Germany, which experienced the horrific Nazi era, promoted political education, politische Bildung, to foster politically aware citizens. In 1976, scholars from both progressive and conservative backgrounds gathered in West Germany and derived three principles in the Beutelsbacher Consensus. And in France, they pursued moral and civic education. In the UK, the Crick report emphasized that citizenship education is a curriculum stipulated by law, and all schools must show they are fulfilling this obligation and presented concrete plans to promote it. During the Japanese colonial period, the basis of education was loyalty to the emperor and filial piety, so-called loyalty filial piety ideology. However, it is the Framework Act on Education that adopted the concept of citizen and specified fostering democratic citizens as the orientation of education. Since then, various offenses of education, local governments and civil society organizations have been promoting democratic citizenship education. This content is also included in the 2022 revised curriculum. In modern society, many people accept fairness as the most important principle, and they package the most important value as freedom. So, everyone pursues a jungle-like world where all are free except expects the operation of the law of the jungle, and thus interest and support for the weak are treated as unnecessary extras. The reality is that fairness without empathy is appearing as a social pathology today beyond the personal dimension. As in the discussion on quality of life, citizenship and character based on the value of empathy beyond fairness and that can be practiced through cooperation must be fostered in the educational field. Both students and teachers are citizens. Therefore, the premise of citizenship education in school must be found in the fact that school is a space where citizenship is guaranteed. In relation to this, the School Democracy Index survey, first introduced by Gyeonggi Office of Education starting in 2015, based on my proposal, can be expanded nationwide and its results actively utilized as a supplementary measure. Also, vitalizing student autonomy is important. In the medium to long term, when revising the curriculum next, consider integrating the ethics and social studies subjects with citizenship education in specific grades and promoting it as ethics, philosophy, civics subject. Also, it is desirable to address some topics through occasion-based classes, etc. The direction must be shifted so that students can cultivate democratic participation attitudes and social responsibility and grow into acting citizens. Beyond educational institutions, other public institutions, including the central government or local governments, the economic sector, including corporations, and furthermore, civil society, must also solidarity and cooperate in promoting citizenship. The National Assembly must promptly enact a tentatively named Citizenship Education Support Act, and a support system including organization and budget must be established so that citizenship education can be pursued sustainably and effectively. Above all, a social consensus through enhanced awareness and consensus on the importance of citizenship education will be the foundation. In the era of digital transformation, the question of how to possess the comprehensive competency to effectively search for information, judge the credibility of sources, understand critically, and produce and share various forms of content, that is, the problem of digital literacy, is emerging as important. Discrimination, hatred, demonization, exclusion, production and distribution of false, distorted information, violence, etc. in cyberspace become means of feeling psychological satisfaction or greed for some individuals or groups, but at the same time make other people victims, giving them wounds difficult to overcome, and even leading to suicide, etc. UNESCO defines digital literacy as the ability of users to safely and appropriately access, manage, understand, integrate, communicate, evaluate, and create through digital environments. Based on this, it points out that citizenship education lacking information discernment, digital ethics, and community contribution can lead to the spread of false information and social division, and conversely, emphasizing only digital literacy without citizenship education risks mass-producing techno-individualists who use technologies selfishly or are indifferent to democratic values. The PISA report explains the difference that while 20th century literacy was about extracting and processing information, 21st century literacy is about constructing and validating knowledge. Therefore, digital literacy elements can be categorized into information discernment, media understanding, online collaboration skills, digital ethical awareness, etc. And it emphasizes that these are closely related to core elements of quality of life, such as students' psychological stability, formation of social relationships, and securing autonomy. Also, the report points out that in the PISA 2018 results, only an average of 9% of 15-year-old students in OECD countries possessed reading skills that could clearly distinguish fact from opinion, and warns that the spread of fake news, fake information, and biased content can impair the quality of democracy and social trust, particularly the so-called echo chamber effect or filter bubble phenomenon formed by algorithms on social media was seen as grouping users into like-minded groups, reducing opportunities to be exposed to opposing opinions and consequently deepening social polarization. Therefore, through digital literacy, students must cultivate the ability to discern the truth of information and be supported to act safely and responsibly in the digital environment. And this is an essential condition supporting the practice of critical thinking and democratic values. Along with the lack of education, another major obstacle to digital citizenship and digital literacy is the fact that the information market is essentially open to means of greedy profit pursuit without regulation. That is, the problem is that the system design is geared towards profit, not people. Therefore, the limitation of interest only to digital literacy at the individual level and being ignorant or tolerant of such greedy profit pursuit must be overcome. To control this, establishing reasonable laws and standards related to consumer harm, illegal content, data protection, anti-competitive practices, and algorithmic systems is also necessary. Also, it should be noted that efforts for digital literacy will inevitably have limits effects if confined only to schools. Therefore, to secure this, the whole society, including families, school relationships, including teachers and friends, various media, etc., and furthermore, the international community must pool their strengths together continuously for the long term. Conclusion. Quality of life goes beyond mere material abundance. It is realized when individuals can lead their lives autonomously, form meaningful social relationships, and have hope for the future. Quality of life is not completed solely within the personal dimension, but is completed through relationships with the outside. Also, citizenship can only gain strength in practice when an individual's quality of life is guaranteed to a certain level, not completed solely within the personal dimension, but is completed through relationships with the outside. Also, citizenship can only gain strength in practice when an individual's quality of life is guaranteed to a certain level. Korean education needs citizenship and character based on an emotional sense of belonging to a community and empathy for others. Looking at the Sejong Future Education Development Plan, it adopts the slogan, education where everyone becomes special by improving learners' quality of life, and declares that it will place learner agency at the center expand the scope of education to learning, life, care, welfare, etc., and raise the level so that they grow as dignified persons, self-directed learners, and happy democratic citizens. In that, it comprehensively aims beyond cognitive competencies towards quality of life and citizenship. It can be a role model. Korean education must practice a paradigm shift that simultaneously enhances social and emotional competencies, citizenship, and quality of life along with cognitive achievement. Ultimately, Korean education must pursue education happy together today and tomorrow. Thank you.